A man leaps from a second-floor window screaming that he's an airplane. He shatters both his legs on impact and still gets up and runs several meters before collapsing. That same night, in the same village, an 11-year-old boy tries to strangle his mother. This is not a nightmare, it's a real night in August 1951 in a quiet village in the south of France. And here's the truly disturbing part. 70 years later, we still don't know for certain what poisoned those people. There was an official explanation, but one of the world's leading experts reviewed it and concluded it doesn't fit. Let's take it step by step. The place is called Pont-Saint-Esprit, a small town on the banks of the Rhône near Avignon. In 1951, France was still recovering from the war, and bread was still the absolute center of the daily diet. Almost everyone bought their loaf at the neighborhood bakery. That habit, so ordinary, so harmless, is exactly what would unleash the horror. It all begins on August 15, 1951. The next day, the offices of the village's 2 doctors fill with patients describing the same symptoms: nausea, vomiting, chills, waves of heat. At first, it looks like ordinary food poisoning. Summer, heat, something gone bad. Nothing out of the ordinary, but then the whole thing changes in nature. The symptoms worsen and hallucinatory episodes and convulsions appear. The situation in the village deteriorates over the following days. The accounts that reach us from those days are chilling. Dozens of people begin to suffer nightmarish hallucinations. The entire village descends into chaos. A little girl screams because she believes tigers are chasing her. A woman weeps, convinced her children have been turned into sausages. One of the village doctors gave that night a name that says it all. On the night of August 24th, a man believed he was an airplane and died leaping from a second-floor window, and an 11-year-old boy tried to strangle his mother. One of the 2 village doctors would call it the Nuit d'Apocalypse, the Apocalyptic Night. The testimony of local authorities confirms the horror. I saw healthy men and women suddenly turn terrified, tearing their sheets, hiding under blankets to escape their hallucinations, the mayor declared. The asylums filled with people wrapped in straitjackets and tied to their beds. According to the British Medical Journal, every attempt to restrain them only increased the agitation. There was one especially strange physical symptom. Almost all suffered insomnia and gave off a peculiar odor. A state of dizziness persisted, accompanied by profuse sweating and an unpleasant smell, the British Medical Journal reported. People compared the stench to dead mice. The final toll was devastating. More than 250 people were affected, including 50 committed to asylums, and there were 7 deaths. And here comes the key question. What had happened? The 2 local doctors, Vieux and Gabay, began investigating like detectives, and they found a pattern. On August 19th, they reached a conclusion. The bread was to blame. Every patient they questioned had bought their bread at the Briand bakery in Pont-Saint-Esprit. The proof was almost a natural laboratory. In one family from a neighboring village, 4 of whose 9 members fell ill, everyone who ate bread from the Briand bakery got sick, while none of those who ate bread from another bakery did. Bread, the most basic food, the most sacred in that post-war France, had become poison. That's why the episode passed into history under a chilling name: Le pain maudit, the cursed bread. But what was in that bread? The explanation that took hold came quickly. Shortly after the incident, in September 1951, scientists wrote in the British Medical Journal that the poisoning outbreak had been caused by ergot. Ergot is no ordinary poison. It's a parasitic fungus that grows on rye under certain climatic conditions, cold winters followed by an especially rainy growing season, and it appears as swollen purplish grains protruding from the ear of grain. And here's the detail that ties it all together. Lysergic acid, the fungus's active component, was used to create LSD. In other words, inside the rye grows naturally a chemical cousin of LSD. And that year's summer worked in favor of the theory. The summer of 1951 was especially wet, and ergot fungus grew across rye fields all over the country. Case closed, it seemed. Bread contaminated with ergot, a poisoning as old as agriculture itself, known in the Middle Ages as St. Anthony's fire. But this is where the story twists. because not everyone believed the ergot explanation. From the very beginning, there were dissenting voices. Barely weeks after the incident, the president of France's Millers Union, Pierre Jacob, refused to accept the ergot explanation. Jacob argued that ergot was always present in French flour and therefore couldn't be responsible. He was so certain that he offered to eat ergot-contaminated bread in front of a panel of experts. And as the decades passed, the doubt only grew. In 2008 came the definitive blow to the official version. American historian Stephen Kaplan, professor at Cornell University and an expert in the history of bread, examined every possible explanation. Ergotism, contaminated water, poisoning by fungicides or other toxins. None of them, he concluded in his 1,000-page book Le Pain Maudit, published in 2008, could adequately explain what had happened. Kaplan has a devastating argument against the most romantic theory, the LSD one. It's clinically incoherent because LSD takes effect within a few hours, while the villagers only showed symptoms after 36 hours or more. And on ergot, he isn't convinced either. He says LSD was an unlikely culprit because the symptoms don't match those of the hallucinogen. But he's not convinced ergot was the cause either. His own hypothesis points in another direction, far more mundane and perhaps for that reason more disturbing. Kaplan's book argues the poisoning may have been caused by nitrogen trichloride, used to bleach flour artificially and illegally. Not a curse, nor a secret experiment, industrial fraud. And here we have to be honest with you, because this channel is about facts, not fantasies. There is a far more spectacular theory. In 2009, American journalist Hank Albarelli claimed the CIA was behind the poisoning. However, historian Stephen Kaplan maintains that Albarelli's theory lacks solid evidence. Albarelli's idea was chilling, that the CIA had sprayed the village with LSD as a chemical warfare experiment during the Cold War. It's a perfect story for a movie, but this needs to be stated clearly. It is fringe theorists who speculate that the CIA intentionally poisoned the population to test an incapacitating agent during the Cold War. The very expert who dismantled the official version also rejects this one. So what are we left with? We're left with a real village, 7 real deaths, hundreds of lives shattered, and a mystery that science still hasn't fully solved. Most academic sources accept natural ergot poisoning as the cause of the epidemic, while a few propose other causes, such as mercury poisoning, mycotoxins, or nitrogen trichloride. And that is the true horror of Pont-Saint-Esprit. Not the tigers no one saw, nor the human airplanes, nor the spy conspiracies. The horror is quieter, that something as everyday as the morning bread killed 7 people and drove an entire village mad. And that, decades later, we still don't know for certain what was inside that loaf. Sometimes the darkest mystery isn't the one that sounds the most extraordinary. It's the one that remains unanswered.